Welcome back to the Gen 10 Theater, and today we're going to do part 4 of Will the Disney Canon and the old expanded universe fit together? Today we're going to talk about games. And now, there really hasn't been very many games since Disney has taken over. That could be seen as both a good thing and a bad thing, but let's go over what we have. Now, first off, I'm going to be skipping all the little spin-offs like the Lego games, the pinball, the Angry Birds, and any of the mobile games. The mobile games, for the most part, were all just player versus player nonsense that most of them have been shut down at this point anyway. So for the main series, the first one that we got was Battlefront, a reboot to the old series from back in the day. Now this game didn't have really much of a story to it at all, but there are battles in here that took place during the sequel trilogy on Jakku, and includes characters like Rey and Kylo Ren. So, while there really isn't a story to ruin anything, you kind of have to throw this one out. And that leads us into the sequel, which is Battlefront 2. Now this one did have a story, believe it or not, and the majority of the story we can keep. It's just the ending when it starts to dive into the sequel trilogy where we sadly lose out. I enjoyed the story up until that point, which, honestly, this game is still pretty fun, but as far as does it fit in, not really. Next up, keeping with the theme, not so much in release order, we have Star Wars Squadrons. Now, this one takes place during the original trilogy and a little bit post-original trilogy, but it doesn't really have anything that excludes it from fitting into our timeline here. So, give this one a try if you haven't played it, especially in VR mode. Speaking of VR, we had 2 VR games, and the first one was the Vader Immortal series. This one takes place after Episode 3 and involves Darth Vader going on a quest to find something that he believes will resurrect Padme. This story doesn't seem to conflict with anything, and it's honestly a very good, fun game to play, so definitely check that one out. The other one that we had was Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. Now this one is actually set during the sequel trilogy, and which means we have to toss it out. Storyline aside, I have heard this is one of the best Star Wars games that has been put out, so it's worth checking out if you want to, but just keep in mind it doesn't fit into our timeline. That takes us into the Jedi series, which we first got Fallen Order, and now we have Survivor. And here things get a little weird. Games tend to stretch the truth and imagination of the series quite a bit. I mean, just look at Force Unleashed with all the different endings, as well as the alternate ending to the Episode 3 game from back in the day. Here we get a few things that clash even with the Disney canon. First off is something that I didn't notice until recently, until I went back to watch some of Rebels, in which Maul claims to have been the last surviving Dathomir being. And yet in these games we have Merrin, who claims to be the last surviving Dathomir being. I guess take your pick, they both existed, but really they were there at the same time when Darth Maul takes Ezra to Dathomir. She's supposed to be there somewhere. I don't know, maybe they were on opposite sides of the planet. I guess, if I'm here and there's somebody in China and we're the only 2 people in the world, I guess we wouldn't know about each other now, would we? Outside of this, really, the game series doesn't have anything that really conflicts too much with our timeline. Of course, that being said, we do have to kill off Cal eventually. Otherwise, we really start just stacking Jedi, We have Cal, we have Ezra, we have Ahsoka, and then there's Luke. It's really just all a part of Disney trying to water down the original characters, which is something that they definitely like to do very much. So that's really it with the games. We do have another one coming out here shortly called Outlaws, which is kind of like you're a smuggler. It's kind of a side story. As far as I can tell, it looks like it's going to fit, and honestly, I'm looking forward to that quite a bit, because I really enjoyed the smuggler side of Star Wars, but we'll see what happens when that one comes out. So the next video, and the last part, is going to be the comics. I will admit I'm not much of a comic person, so this is going to take a lot of research, and I'll see you when that one comes out.